Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If we could please settle down, we are about to get started. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Also at the back, the staff members from Century City, we are about to start the media briefing. If we can please settle down. Welcome to the Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium 2026. This is our media briefing where we'll be giving you important infrastructure updates for the duration of the symposium, but also just the cumulative efforts, the cumulative progress that Infrastructure South Africa has made over the past 12 to 18 months. Our program is not very long, it's very short. My name is Nombulelo Nyathela and I work at Infrastructure South Africa. I'm Chief Director responsible for communications and external relations. I'd like to start by acknowledging some of our dignitaries in the room before we get into our program. Firstly, to acknowledge the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, who is our host at this symposium. Minister Dean McPherson. Acknowledge the Deputy Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, who is our host, Deputy Minister Sihle Zikalala. And then to acknowledge our dignitaries from the African continent. This will be the third year running that at Infrastructure South Africa we invite ministers from the continent because of the work we are trying to do from a regional integration perspective. To acknowledge the Honorable Minister of Public Works and Transport from Eswatini, Honorable Ndlaluhlaza, who's here for the third time running this year. And then also the Honorable Minister of National Infrastructure in Mauritius, the Honorable Ganes. I don't think he's in the room. And then in absentia, the Honorable Minister of Local Governments, Daniel Garwe, who's landing first thing tomorrow morning. Also to acknowledge, we keep saying this, but after this he won't be so new a minister anymore, the Honorable Minister of Transport and Infrastructure from Botswana, who was the then previous Deputy Minister, Honorable Atamelang. This is his first official engagement as a minister, so we're very excited that he chose the symposium to do this. The Honorable Minister of Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development, Honorable Alice Wahome. I think she may have gone up. She's from Kenya. The first time we have Kenya here, but also the only woman here. And then to acknowledge also in absentia, Professor Paul Mavima, who's Minister of National Housing and Social Amenities, who's also arriving first thing tomorrow morning, also from Zimbabwe. Let's give them all a round of applause. And then, as you're all aware, this year's Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium is focused on municipal infrastructure. It's themed Shaping the Future of Municipal Infrastructure. We're very excited to welcome to this symposium the Executive Mayor or the Acting Executive Mayor of the City of Harare, Councillor Womborai Shenende. There he is. The Executive Mayor of the City of Kampala in the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Ronald. The mayor is full of energy. I'm sure Kampala is a wonderful city to be in. The Honorable, His Worship, the Deputy Mayor of Maputo, Councillor Joao. All right. Then the Deputy Governor of the City of Nairobi, His Excellency James Muchiri. He may have left the room. And then also the Executive Mayor of Gaborone, Councillor Owarabile Mutlaleng. He will tell you that we hunted him down to make sure that he is here today. And then in absentia, the Mayor Alex Banda from Lilongwe in Malawi, who's landing just at 5, but just so you know that he will be here from this evening. Welcome all. And then just to acknowledge also some of our own also principals, MEC of Public Works and Infrastructure from the Free State, MEC Manche, MEC of Public Works and Infrastructure, Jacob Mamabulo, who was here. But has, I think he's left, yes. Okay, he's going to Mzoli. I also want to be there. And then also, we also have some MMCs in the room. MMC Mlambo, you're acknowledged. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, our program is very short. I'm going to start by handing over to the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure to do opening remarks and welcome us here, but also give us important updates and what to look forward to for the duration of the symposium. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Numbulelo. Let me greet the Deputy Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Mr. SIDSSA26, our Head of Infrastructure South Africa, Ms. Mametse Masemola, our ministers from across the African continent, members of the Executive Council, our MMCs, mayors, private sector partners, particularly our one of our headline sponsors, Mr. Teddy Daka from Zatari, the CEO. He deserves a round of applause. And we're even more grateful that he's in South Africa. For those of us that know the inside joke. It's really my pleasure to welcome all of you to Cape Town for the 6th Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium, South Africa, or SIDSSA26. This year's theme is about shaping the future of municipal infrastructure. It reflects our focus on improving infrastructure delivery where South Africans and businesses experience the state most directly at a local level. SIDSSA is the second most important summit in South Africa now after the South African Investment Conference. This year, we have 7 African ministers joining the summit from, amongst others, Kenya, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Eswatini, as well as 9 African mayors from cities such as Nairobi, Maputo, and others. In addition to the Premier of Gauteng, we have 7 members of the Executive Council from across the country joining us, and for the first time ever, we will be having 13 mayors from important metropolitan and regional cities across South Africa, as well as 3 members of the mayoral committees joining us as part of our City-to-City Connect conversations. Over 1,200 delegates will enter our doors during the upcoming days as we continue to work to turn South Africa into a construction site. Ladies and gentlemen, this shows our commitment to using this summit as an opportunity to mobilize commitments into the South African economy. SIDSSA brings together government, project sponsors, investors, financiers, and technical professionals to convert these commitments into viable infrastructure projects and functional assets. Its value must be measured by whether projects are prepared, financed, procured, and completed. On Tuesday morning, President Cyril Ramaphosa will formally open the symposium. The President will use the opportunity to also announce the 3rd edition of the Infrastructure South African Construction Book, and so I therefore don't want to preempt that announcement today. Instead, I want to explain how SIDSSA fits into the wider work of Infrastructure South Africa and the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure to accelerate construction and improve the management of public assets. Ladies and gentlemen, municipal infrastructure is essential to service delivery and economic growth. Reliable water, sanitation, electricity, roads, and waste services determine whether communities and businesses can function. Improving these systems requires more than additional funding. We don't have a shortage of funding. Municipalities need credible project preparation, technical capability, sustainable funding models, and plans to operate and maintain assets over their life cycle. Over the past 18 months, Infrastructure South Africa has committed 131 million rand to supporting local government infrastructure. In Machobeng local municipality, an investment of approximately 1.8 million rand to prepare a non-revenue water water program across a network of around 1,700 kilometers helped to unlock an 800 million rand debt financing facility from the Development Bank of Southern Africa. Through the Presidential Adopt a Municipality program, SIDSSA is helping a number of municipalities to prepare projects seeking to unlock approximately 7 billion rand in water, sanitation, energy, and waste management investment. The support is intended to strengthen municipal capacity, not replace municipal responsibility. That principle applies across Infrastructure South Africa's work. SIDSSA does not operate outside the public infrastructure ecosystem, and it does not deliver projects in isolation. It supports work led by departments, municipalities, state-owned entities, and private sponsors, collaborating with National Treasury, regulators, development institutions, investors, and technical professionals to bridge the gap between concept, finance, and implementation. This matters because the fiscus cannot meet our infrastructure requirements alone. Public investment must work alongside development finance and responsive private capital with clear public oversight. South Africa now has 81 strategic integrated projects comprising 263 individual projects with an estimated combined value of nearly 2 trillion rand. This includes both public sector-led and private sector-led high-value, high-impact infrastructure investments. Over the last 18 months, 37 projects worth approximately 69 billion rand have been completed. 82 projects worth approximately 502 billion rand are currently in construction. A further 54 projects worth approximately 206 billion are in documentation and procurement. These figures show both the scale of the pipeline and the importance of sustained coordination across the infrastructure system. Following my remarks, the Head of Infrastructure South Africa, Ms. Mametsi Masomolo, will provide more detail on the pipeline and its strategies to deliver. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the largest constraints on infrastructure delivery remains inadequate preparation. Projects are announced before feasibility studies, land requirements, regulatory approvals, procurement routes, and funding arrangements have been resolved. Through our first of its kind 600 million rand commitment to project delivery support launched in 2024, Infrastructure South Africa is helping public institutions develop high-value projects into bankable and investment-ready projects. Infrastructure South Africa is providing preparation support to more than 26 high-value projects with an estimated capital value of approximately 148 billion rand, while 15 supported projects have completed their preparatory work now. At SIDSSA26, we will announce the projects selected through bid window 2. Together, they represent a potential capital investment value of approximately 57.8 billion rand. Bid window 3 opened in July to continue building this pipeline. Prepared projects must then be connected to finance. Earlier this year, I chaired SIDSSA's Development Partners Forum deal pitching session, which was a new first for us. 4 opportunities in housing, aviation, bulk water, and energy requiring more than 53 billion rand in debt financing were presented directly to development finance institutions and multilateral banks. The objective is targeted engagement between sponsors and financiers to move projects towards financial close. The work of our department extends beyond Infrastructure South Africa and SIDSSA. Public Works and Infrastructure is also responsible for constructing, maintaining, and managing the buildings and properties from which government delivers services. We are accelerating work with various entities and partners to do so. In Johannesburg, the new 769 million rand deeds office is under construction in the city, and we hope to deliver that this year. It is the first new high-rise development in the city of Johannesburg in more than 20 years, and it is scheduled for completion in October. It has also helped, we have also worked to help restart projects like the Sarah Bartman Centre of Remembrance that were delayed for more than a decade. And our very own social infrastructure agent, the Independent Development Trust, has seen a rise in its work, contributing to the infrastructure landscape of our country. We are also changing how the state manages its wider property portfolio. Government cannot continue to spend billions of rands on private leases while our own buildings sit empty. That is why the planned South African National Property Company will move and continue to move the state towards professional asset management, reducing unnecessary leases, refurbishing buildings, structuring partnerships, and unlocking investment with the private sector. During the past financial year, we have also started to make our own buildings available to fight issues like gender-based violence and femicide, which is incredibly important in Women's Month. This is what we mean about using public assets for public good. Ladies and gentlemen, SIDSSA reflects this approach. Today, we visited the Cape Flats Aquifer. Tomorrow, the Leaders Forum and City to City Connect program focuses on shared challenges in local government. Tuesday's plenary will address investment, delivery, financing, and regional cooperation. SIDSSA brings the necessary partners together, but the work cannot end when the program closes on Tuesday night. The outcomes must be about better prepared projects, credible partnerships, identified blockages, clear responsibilities, and implementation timelines that must and can be monitored. South Africans need government buildings that work, public assets that are properly used, and infrastructure that delivers reliable services in their communities where they are. That is the standard by which we must be judged, and that is the standard by which this conference will be judged. I wish you all a wonderful time. Enjoy yourself, but not too much, especially in the evenings, because we have work to do in the mornings. And I look forward to all of the inputs, particularly from our ministers, mayors, and colleagues across the continent. I wish you well, and I guess I can now declare this conference open. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. I'll move on swiftly to our second speaker, but before I do that, I omitted to acknowledge two mayors, and my apologies, because actually my boss's favorite city is Walvis Bay. She wants to retire there. The mayor, the executive mayor of Walvis Bay in the Republic of Namibia, Councillor Shimbilinga, you are acknowledged. And then also just to say that we are expecting the mayor of Douala from the Republic of Cameroon at 5 o'clock this afternoon as well, and we acknowledge him in absentia. So having said that, over to you, Ms. Masemula, for your infrastructure updates, and I will leave here for your presentation. It's okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be using slides behind me as I read my prepared statement for this afternoon. So, Infrastructure South Africa was established by government officially in September of 2020 to provide a single point of coordination for the country's priority infrastructure pipeline, and our mandate is provided for in the Infrastructure Development Act. So we are mandated to identify and prioritize strategic infrastructure. We're also mandated to prepare and package projects to move them from being conceptual stage to bankability, thus attracting public funding as well as mobilization of private sector financing. We're also mandated to coordinate the national pipeline of priority projects in the form of strategic integrated projects, and we'll talk a little bit more about the level of implementation of these projects, and as well as enabling the ease of doing business through vigorous regulatory unblockings in line with the provisions of the IDA. And lastly, we are mandated to also monitor and report on projects as they move through the infrastructure life cycle. In terms of this slide, this actually summarizes the problem statement insofar as infrastructure is concerned in South Africa. Firstly, there is a document called the National Development Plan 2030. It sets the target for gross fixed capital formation, which is infrastructure investment, as a percentage of GDP to be 30% by 2030. At the moment, we are sitting at 13.75% of that. And so we are not even halfway to reaching that 30% in terms of those aspirational targets and goals as set in the National Development Plan. What this slide also shows is that only 2.6% of the overall project pipeline are PPPs, which means that we must be able to ramp up exponentially the number of PPP projects that come through the development cycle insofar as infrastructure is concerned. And for us to be able to reach that goal, it means in reality, we've got to bring 16 to 20 mega infrastructure investments into construction, into procurement and construction every single year. Because the infrastructure investment gap at the moment is sitting at 1.6 trillion rand to 2030. So over and above the 1.1 trillion rand that the Minister of Finance has made available for capital projects, we must still raise 1.6 trillion rand for all these other government mega infrastructure investments or projects. And so we need to be able to work very, very hard, like the Minister said, on preparing and packaging these projects such that they can unlock additional fiscal allocations as well as be able to attract private sector financing. So our focused attention is going to be in relation to the pipeline that moves through the infrastructure South Africa space, is those projects that are PPPs in nature, those projects that are blended finance candidates, projects that are potentially commercially viable, or those projects that can at least enable us to deploy alternative financing mechanisms so that we move away from over-reliance on the fiscus to be able to mobilize private sector capital. The Minister has spoken a little bit more about the strategic integrated projects. So I'd like to make this example that in Egypt, they actually call strategic integrated projects golden ticket projects. So these are projects that are not declared strategic integrated projects by Infrastructure South Africa. They are declared and gazetted as such by Cabinet, as well as the Presidential Infrastructure Coordinating Commission that is chaired by His Excellency President Ramaphosa. So these projects have been gazetted over a number of years at the moment in line with the provisions of the Infrastructure Development Act. So these are projects that they are deemed to be, have high GDP impact, these projects that are creating jobs, these projects that can drive spatial transformation, as well as industrialization, and most importantly, that these projects are able to transfer fiscal risk away from the public sector to the private sector. And like Minister has said, we have 81 strategic integrated projects that are comprising 263 individual projects to the tune of 1.9 trillion rand. Obviously, these projects are in different stages of development, and we do show on the screen some of these projects that have been completed in the last 18 months, 69 billion rand worth of these projects. 82 of these projects worth 503 billion rand are currently in construction, and a further 54 projects are already in documentation and procurement. And we must say that Another large amount of these projects are also sitting at development stage, meaning that they still require project preparation. Some people sitting here might think that 600 million rand is sufficient for project preparation in South Africa, but in fact, our own computation shows that we need government in general. We've got to be able to spend 5 to 6 billion rand each year just on project preparation alone. So partnering with institutions that are willing to work with Infrastructure South Africa, and also working, as the Minister has said, within the broader public sector ecosystem, helps us to prepare and package a lot more projects every single year that are high impact, that are high value. And one of the things that we do, which is work that we are very proud of, and again, we execute this mandate based on what the law provides, the Infrastructure Development Act, is on regulatory and unblockings linked to the projects that are registered with Infrastructure South Africa. So not only do we track and report on the level of implementation of strategic integrated projects, but to expedite regulatory processes. You know, projects require authorizations, licenses, permits, municipal resolutions, those kind of things, to be able so that these projects can be implemented at speed and at scale. Whether it is your environmental authorizations, you require letters of no objection from the Department of Transport, you require letters of no objection from the South African National Defence Force or the Department of Defence, and so on and so forth. We're able to work with these regulatory bodies that we've shown on the screen and others to expedite those approvals, provided that those projects, one, are registered with Infrastructure South Africa and they meet the requirements of being a strategic integrated project, and secondly, that they are also submitting a compliant application. So you can't submit a half-baked application, but expect that a water user license or environmental authorization will be given as a project sponsor. Most of these cases that we've been dealing with are in the main to support also private sector-led infrastructure projects, especially in the energy space, and our success rate is actually 87%. Where we are not succeeding is because it will be in relation to maybe a project owner wants to access servitudes on a privately owned land, maybe through, say, a mine or a farm, and so on and so forth. And really, that's the limitation of the Infrastructure Development Act itself, because it does not extend to private sector-owned land, but where it is public sector land or land that belongs to public sector, etc., we're able to work through those approval processes and to be able to obtain these permits and licenses and authorizations relatively quickly. I also just want to talk a little bit more about the project preparation pipeline. In Infrastructure South Africa, we call it an emerging pipeline, because these are projects that do not have funding. So they are not funded, they don't have funding. And yet there is a strategic case for these projects to be implemented or to be developed. So we deploy our own project preparation facility that the Minister has spoken about to be able to support these projects so that we can move them from being in conceptual stage to being bankable. So far, 26 projects have come through the window of, the SIDSSA pipeline process, and we have allocated 270 million rand towards developing these projects. The project pipeline, by the way, it also reflects the strategic priorities of government. So we focus on freight and logistics, transport, we focus on water and sanitation, we focus on energy and electricity, we focus on digital infrastructure, digital communications infrastructure. We also focus on some social infrastructure, and in particular the schools as well as health infrastructure. And of course, on the back of supporting the implementation of the industrial policy of the country, we'll also focus on special economic zones. In fact, 4 of those special economic zones projects are currently being prepared and packaged, and out of those 4, 2 of them have already been submitted to National Treasury's budget facility for infrastructure, so that those projects can be considered for funding by the National Treasury. Some of the projects that we have prepared and packaged coming off from the 23-24 financial year have already unlocked fiscal allocations from the National Treasury, and that includes your high-capacity rail project called Project Ukuvuselela by Transnet, which has already unlocked 2.1 billion rand from the National Treasury. And the Minister has already spoken about the Machabeng local municipality. It's a water and sanitation project, so they are looking to replace a network of over 1,700 kilometers of pipes that carry potable water. So we've been able to prepare and package that. We've already secured funding from the DBSA, and we have submitted that project now to National Treasury for viability gap funding as well. One of the interesting things that we're beginning to see is that those projects that we prepared 2 years ago are now being showcased in the construction book. So the upstream work that we did previously, for example, if you look at the Tygerberg Hospital, which is a PPP, we prepared and packaged that project in collaboration with the Infrastructure Fund, now called IFISA. That project is now showcased in the construction book that the President is going to be releasing on Tuesday. Because the focus of this year's conference is on municipalities, we thought that we should also give you a good sense of some of the work we're doing as Infrastructure South Africa in terms of supporting municipal infrastructure. We do work on big or mega infrastructure projects in municipalities because by law or by regulation, we are mandated to work on projects that have got a minimum value of 1 billion rand and above. So those are the projects that we focus on. And so we do give you a snapshot of what we've been able to do in relation to municipalities. One of the things that we know for sure is that the lack of municipal bulk infrastructure has become a binding constraint on the economy. We are not able to unlock top structures, whether it is social infrastructure, it is economic infrastructure, because municipalities are not able to deliver on or have the funding to support those investments. And so our big focus from our side is to support municipal trading services. The reason being is that municipal trading services have got underlying revenue generation prospects, and so there is a little bit of room to be innovative around how you can package those projects such that they are not overly reliant on the municipality's own balance sheet or the National Treasury, for example. And so there's a bit more room to deploy different types of instruments from a financing perspective to support municipalities. So some of these projects that we are currently preparing and packaging is the City of Ekurhuleni's wastewater and treatment system. This is a 23.4 billion rand infrastructure investment that the municipality is seeking to advance. It's currently being prepared and packaged. We have finalized the feasibility studies for the city of Tshwane in terms of their Rooival wastewater treatment works, phase 2. That project is now moving into a PPP development phase, and we're working very closely with the Water Partnership Office at the DBSA, Development Bank of Southern Africa, in order to advance that project. The Minister has spoken a lot about the work we're doing on Adopt a Municipality pilot program. This is a special program because, as mentioned, the projects that we're working on are 1 billion rand and above. These municipalities are relatively small, but well run, they've got stable or improving audit outcomes, but they struggle with infrastructure. And so this is the only time that where we are having, sort of an end-to-end solution for these municipalities. So we've worked with them to scope these projects, to prioritize them in terms of their long list of requirements and so on. They put a lot of things in their IDPs and so on, but we are able to use our own economic models to show them that if you focus on these projects, at least in the short to the medium term, they have a greater impact insofar as socio-economic objectives are concerned of that particular municipality. And we're very proud to be working. One of the things that we liked is that when the Minister of Finance announced the 69 municipalities that he was going to withdraw their transfers or allocations, none of these municipalities that are under the Adopt a Municipality program appeared as part of those 69, which shows that our initial dimensions that we used to assess these municipalities and to pick these municipalities were actually quite correct. And so we're just helping them to get those projects over the line. We are supported in this program by the UK government in terms of the Foreign Commonwealth Development Office. Nombulela, I hope I said it right. The National Treasury's ITEF is called Infrastructure Technical Assistance Facility, as well as Municipal Infrastructure Support Agent. So we are deploying resources from these institutions to support these municipalities that sit under the Adopt a Municipality pilot program. And just lastly, the construction book. So in 2024, we released the first edition of this construction book. We actually borrowed this concept from the UK itself, from a SIDSSA equivalent in the UK called the Infrastructure and Projects Authority, that releases this construction book every year. It's actually a central repository of all the projects that are funded, they are financed already, they've been allocated a budget, they come off from what they call annual procurement plans that they submit to National Treasury. So we harvest that information from there, working with state-owned entities, working with National Treasury, and so on and so forth. We harvest that information, we collect it, and then we put it in this construction book. One of the things that we've realized that we ought to be doing as SIDSSA is that we just need to evaluate the performance of this construction book at least on a quarterly basis and not wait for the end of the year. And when we evaluate the performance of the construction book, we're essentially looking at whether the project, if the sponsor says that I'm going out to market in October 2026, indeed the project is published on e-portal or tender online and so on, and that there is actually a service provider that then gets to be appointed on the back of that particular construction, procurement event. And so we're going to be looking at doing the undertaking quarterly performance reviews of this construction book and issuing those reports to yourselves as stakeholders. For Infrastructure South Africa, the next evolution of this work is not simply going to be on collating these projects, but to create, to provide greater quality assurance over the infrastructure pipeline. Over time, we want to be able to assess whether allocated infrastructure budgets, remember the construction book projects are coming out of that 1.1 trillion rand that the Minister of Finance is making available, or the Department of Finance, or National Treasury is making available. So these projects are coming off from that 1.1 trillion rand. We want to be able to see whether these projects, one, they are being deployed, they are the correct projects, and they're being deployed in the right areas, but that's work that we'll do with National Treasury. There seems to be appetite on the side of the Treasury team to work with us on that front. This can only strengthen the work of National Treasury when it reviews these annual performance plans for national government departments, provinces, municipalities, state-owned entities, and so on. The objective ultimately of this construction book is to create a much stronger line of sight between budget allocation, between project readiness, procurement, and actual infrastructure delivery. So that concludes the presentation from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause. Just to indicate members of the media that this was a lot to take in, I understand, but we've just circulated the slides to media groups and also another summary update that you can use just to get a little bit more of the nitty-gritties. And of course, you can always ask questions later on. I'd like to acknowledge the MEC of Public Works and Infrastructure. MEC Mokoa, you're welcome. Thank you. So we'll move on swiftly to the next part of our program. If we can just, we'll move to we are doing the MOU signings. Yes. Okay, so as you're aware, Infrastructure South Africa works a lot with partners. We use our partnerships to advance the work that we do. Mametsi likes to say that we're a very small team with a very big mandate. And as much as we like to punch above our weight, typically we have to make use of our partnerships to get the work done. So today we'll be signing MOUs with 3 partners that we've partnered with already. But of course, we like to give our work some frameworks and also to probably expand the scope of the work that we can do. We'll be signing an MOU first. We'll be signing an MOU with the NBI, which is a National Business Initiative. If Ruth Trosky could come up, please. And then also with Infrastructure South Africa. Mametsi, if you can please just come up. Where are my hostesses with the NBI MOUs? Thank you. So let me read a little bit about what this MOU will be covering. So just in case for the people in the room, the NBI is a non-profit company that channels the resources of its members from private sector to support sustainable growth and development in South Africa. NBI brings together business, government, labor, and civil society to promote sustainable development transformation. So this MOU outlines the broad working relationship, which will include, number 1, sourcing and managing appropriate funding for the provision of technical support and experts. Number 2, assisting in the strengthening of institutional capacity of Infrastructure South Africa. Number 3, providing due diligence, financial modeling, and project structuring support for projects. Number 4, supporting formal agreements with identified project champions and funders. Number 5, providing project management support in the execution of plans for the initiatives. And of course, supporting us on reporting. The 2 signatories are Ms. Ruth Trosky and Ms. Mametsi Masemula, and we'd like to give you a round of applause for this really great collaboration between government and business. If you could please sign the ends, and if the crowd can be patient with us as they sign and we swap and they sign and we take pictures and we move on to the next one. Maybe a little bit of music as this is happening can be very awkward and quiet as they're signing.
Soothe the tension.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much. If we could just stand up, do a photo op, hold the MOUs up like we do when we're not in the country. Yes, and a nice photo op. Thank you very much. Another round of applause. Just take them, yeah. Okay, I'll ask Mametsi to keep sitting. Mametsi can keep sitting as we call on the next MOU signing. We will be the next one. Yes, correct. So the next MOU is with Zutari, and I'd like to call up Mr. Teddy Dakar, who is the Group CEO of Zutari. It's you. And just a little bit of information about Zutari. Zutari is a multinational buildings, infrastructure, engineering, and advisory firm with a proud legacy of over 90 years across Africa and the Middle East. The multidisciplinary expertise enables Zutari to co-create infrastructure that is technically excellent, socially meaningful, and environmentally responsible, maximizing value through advanced engineering principles and a commitment to sustainability. Can you tell Cam wrote this? Because he's like hyping you guys up. It's him. So the parties are collaborating on the following initiatives in public infrastructure planning, design, and digitalization, including the establishment of a collaborative think tank, the joint production of thought leadership publications and research, and the hosting and participation of industry events like the Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium. And I'd like to congratulate you for partnering with us. We can sign the MOU. Just help them. Help them. Thank you very much. If we can stand up and do a beautiful photo op. Please hold your MOUs up. Let's clap for them again. Thank you very much. All right, please take them. Thank you. No. All right. Okay. And then the last one, yes, Ms. Mamiti, please sit down. The last one is actually, we'll amplify this MOC, we must tell you, in plenary on Tuesday because it is that critical to us, is with the Infrastructure Technical Assistance Facility. Just in case you are not aware, ITEF is a technical assistance program funded by the European Union that supports the efficient and effective preparation and design of sustainable and financially viable infrastructure programs in South Africa. And it is a program under National Treasury. I'd like to call up Ms. Nomzamo Mqeta from ITEF to come and sign with Mamiti. Let's clap for her. They are some of the most sought after people in government. And this MOU, essentially, our MOC, rather, is going to cover the following collaborations: private sector engagements, number 2, project pipeline development and coordination, number 3, infrastructure value chain and delivery systems, number 4, the Adopt a Municipality pilot program, number 5, public-private partnerships and municipal infrastructure training, and lastly, knowledge, data, and learning. And as you can tell from this, hits the core of our work. This MOU is very important to us, so thank you very much, ITEF, and we really are excited about the work that we'll be doing with you. We can sign. Let's clap for them. Are we done sliding? If we can please stand up and take a photo. Thank you again. All right, you may take leave of the stage. Ladies and gentlemen and members of the media, this brings us towards the end of our program. However, I don't want to close this part of the session if members of the media have pressing questions they'd like to pose, and I'll take just one round of hands if there are any for these speakers. Otherwise, the media liaison officers are around, all of them, and we can always take the questions offline. I don't see any hands, so I'm going to take it that we're fine to do interviews on the side and get further details. Having said this, I think this was a great short media program. I'd like to thank, in the end, our sponsors and partners. Firstly, to thank the CIDB, the UK government, the BRICS Bank, Brand South Africa, Baigen Global, South African Airways, TIDA, Huawei, Zutari, and Standard Bank. Thank you very much for your partnership, collaboration, and sponsorship. The announcement is that later on today, as you're aware, the UK government is hosting a mixer at Gusto, that side. And then we'll meet otherwise tomorrow at the City to City Connect sessions, where we'll be listening to our mayors from South Africa and the mayors from the continent for further interaction. Thank you very much.